Hey y'all, it's Michelle, Day with TN. Gonna bring y'all along for a fall dessert that I make, and what we're going to be doing is a butternut squash pie with praline topping. Now the good thing about this pie is that you could also substitute in sweet potatoes or even pumpkin. But if you've got an abundance of butternut squash and are looking for something new and different to do with it, this is a recipe I came up with. Some co-workers family had an abundance of butternut squash, and they brought me some and said make us something good with it. Okay, so I'm actually gonna make this tomorrow, which will be Sunday, and take it to work because co-workers are already asking me when I'm gonna bring in some goodies. So what I'm going to do is a little prep work ahead of time, and I've already got my butternut squash peeled and chopped up into small pieces. It's been in my freezer because this came from my garden when it was ripe. I just went ahead and did everything. I'm going to take a stick of butter, and I'm going to dump it in this pan, and I'm going to stick it in my preheating oven right quick to let it melt down. This is just a 9x13 pan. Once I have my butter melted, I'm going to bring you back, and we're just going to toss the chunks of butternut squash to kind of coat them with the butter, and then we're going to sprinkle some brown sugar and cinnamon on here to coat them. So we'll be back as soon as we got our butter melted. Got our butter all melted, so I'm going to very carefully, because the pan's hot and the butter's hot, kind of rake this off in there. Tried to drain it off from the water on it from the freezer as best I could. Now, when I first made this, I had 2 medium-sized butternut squash. Mine were kind of on the small, so I think this is probably 3 butternut squash. Now, I decided to show this recipe because I thought, being with the holidays coming up, this would be a really good Thanksgiving or just fall type dessert. Like I said, if you have an abundance of butternut squash and can't figure out stuff to do with it, you know, this is another good way of using it up. Okay, so that's probably coated good enough. Flatten it all out a little bit. On this, I'm going to sprinkle some cinnamon and some brown sugar, and then I'm going to stick it in the oven, and it's going to bake at 400 degrees for about 40 to 60 minutes. I'll check it at the 20-minute mark, and I don't have any specific measurements on how much brown sugar. I'm going to say this is we'll say 3 tablespoons here, a little more than 3. Just kind of coat it a little bit, and before I stir that around. Same with the cinnamon. I'm just going to sprinkle some on there. That way, if you don't use all of this in the pie, because you're only going to need 3 cups of mashed butternut squash for it. So you could, if you have leftovers, then you can just serve it up with a meal. It'll be tasty. You're just roasting squash. So, alright, that looks pretty good to me, and my oven's done preheating. So I'm gonna cover this up with some foil and stick it in there, and like I said, I'm gonna chuck it in about 20 minutes. So, and like I said, we're just kind of doing a little prep work for the pie we're going to make tomorrow. So I love when I can make or prep stuff ahead of time, especially if you're doing a holiday meal. It just makes your life a whole lot easier if you can, you know, cut and cook some stuff ahead. So, alright, we'll be back when this is done roasting. Okay, we pulled our squash out of the oven. I pulled the foil off after 20 minutes, and I left it in there for another 10, and as you can see, fork is sliding in just fine. So these are done. Now what I'm going to do is let this cool off a little bit, and then I'm going to put them in another bowl so I can wash up this pan. I've got something else I want to make in it, and I'm going to bring y'all along for that. And we'll get this mashed up, and tomorrow I'll bring the camera back out and we will make a pie out of this. We're back on the next day. Gonna finish making our butternut squash pie with praline topping. I've got about 3 cups of the butternut squash that I cooked yesterday. Just roasted it in the oven. And I'm going to give this a little bit of a pulse here to kind of, maybe, there we go, to blend it up a little better. Sorry for the noise. Okay, to that, and don't worry about trying to write down the recipe. I will put the recipe in the description below. To this, I'm going to add 1 cup of evaporated milk, not condensed milk, evaporated milk. Put that in there. I'm going to add 1 egg, maybe. There we go. Yep. We're going to put, let's see, let's blend that up just a little bit. Okay, sorry, I got interrupted. Got the butternut squash in here, got the evaporated milk and the egg, and I blended it up just a little bit. I'm going to add to this, let's see, where are we? I've got 1 cup of brown sugar here. It was lightly packed. And let's give that a little bit of a blend. One thing I did not measure out, I had everything else out on the counter except for 1/4 cup of sugar. Oh, just about right. And to this, I'm also going to add, I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. If you don't use any cinnamon when you're cooking your squash, you could up that to 1 teaspoon to 1½ teaspoons, if you, just depending on how much of the spice you like. So there's that out of the way. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, maybe. Doesn't have to be heaping. There we go. And I'm going to put cornstarch on my counter while I'm at it. I'm going to add cornstarch on myself on the floor, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm going to, and this is an optional addition, the top off, I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of amaretto. Okay. And I think that's everything. Sorry about that. Okay, let's get this blended up. So I'm going to turn this on for a little bit, and I'm going to cut you off so y'all don't, or at least pause you so you can listen to it. Okay, let's grab a spatula. And kind of work this stuff down on the sides and do a little more blending. Some of the cornstarch up. That's looking pretty good. Alright, there we go. Now, let's see, how do I want to do this? That off. Out of the way. Let's get our blade out of there. Try not to dribble any down the middle. Now, I've got a pie crust already prepared. Make sure you can see. Not quite. There we go. Get some stuff out of the way. Alright, we're just going to pour this in. I am using a deep dish pie just to keep things quick and simple. This evening I did one of the Pillsbury pie crust. If you want to take the time and make a homemade pie crust, I'm sure that would be even better. And this probably really could have been done in just a regular 9-inch. In fact, yeah, it definitely could have. Would have fit just fine. I'm just used to grabbing my deep dish out of there. Most of mine are deep dish. Try to get all that out of there. Okay. Here we go. Alright. I'm going to put this in an oven that's been preheated to 350, and it's going to go in there for about 50 to 60 minutes. So in the meantime, while I put that in there, we'll come back in just a minute and mix up the topping. Pie's been in the oven now for about 40 minutes, and it's not jiggly in the center. And I'm going to do the toothpick test and see if it comes out clean. And it does. So at this point, what I'm going to do is put on the praline topping. I have mixed together here some brown sugar and pecans, and I'm just going to sprinkle. It's a cup of pecans and a cup of brown sugar. Sprinkle this all over, spread it out, try to keep as much of it on the pie and off of the hot tray as I possibly can. Some over here. And yeah, I'm going pretty thick with this, because you really want that to be prominent on as a topping. So it probably is a good thing I did do the 9-inch. I mean the deep dish after all, because you can see it's kind of filling up. See, try to get that better around the edges. Oops. Okay. There we go. That ought to be good. Okay. Now, from there, I'm going to take some butter. And I hope the other stick is thawed out. I doubt it is. I may have to soften it up. I'm just going to take some bits of butter and break it up and drop it on the top. And I forgot to mention, I had to pull mine back out. You might want to use a pie ring around your crust to keep it from burning while it cooks. Okay, I'm going to say that's good enough. Alright, we're going to put this back in the oven for about another 10 minutes, and we'll bring you back when we pull it back out. There we are. Here's our finished praline top butternut squash pie. You might want to check the topping to make sure it doesn't burn about 5 minutes in. See if you need to add any more butter in some spots, which I did. So anyway, I hope y'all like this recipe, and I hope you'll give it a try. I'm sorry I'm not going to cut into it and show you a slice, because I promised the folks at work that I would bring this in. So they're expecting a whole pie. Maybe if I can get a slice tomorrow, I can take a picture and put it up as the thumbnail or something. If not, I'll just use a picture of the whole pie. So thank you for joining me on this, and I hope y'all give this recipe a try. Let me know if you do. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below, and I'll answer you as soon as I possibly can. Y'all take care. Happy cooking.